Now, I've seen movies that I've liked a lot, but Star Wars did not have the effect on me it had on the people you're about to meet. Yo, duh, you're blocking my light. Let's start the show. It's a Star Wars orgy on the Buzz as we visit the one and only exclusive Star Wars memorabilia shop. Meet the man with the galaxy's biggest private Star Wars collection. Descend into Bob's basement to carouse with the Star Wars cantina creatures. And find out why George Lucas decided to revamp the original Star Wars and finally begin a new trilogy. Hello, Buzzers. I have died and gone to a galaxy far, far away. Well, actually, not very far at all. I'm actually in Los Angeles at the home of the biggest Star Wars collector, well, I've ever known. I mean, he's not a giant guy or anything. He's a regular-sized guy, but he has a lot of stuff. His name is Steven Sansweet. You'll meet him in just a minute. But first, as you know, Star Wars excitement is building, and hold on a second. Did you see that? Well, of course you saw that. How can you miss it? Wow, what a piece. But yeah, excitement is building in anticipation of the next trilogy from George Lucas. As some of you may know, George is somewhat of a reclusive creator, but recently he sat down and told us all about how Star Wars first came about and how he's upgrading the 3 existing films.
Here they come.
Many Star Wars fans think of the 3 films as the ultimate popcorn movies. Lots of action, lots of special effects, lots of fun. But that's not all the trilogy's creator George Lucas had in mind. When he talks about the pictures, he almost sounds like a philosophy professor. He says that ultimately Star Wars is about mythology.
Mythology is usually a way of dealing with issues, human relations, larger cosmic issues. It's a way of explaining them to younger people. It's a way one generation pass on the larger meaning of life to the younger generation in a metaphor form. And you sort of look at our society and we're not doing that. So we're not passing on the values that we have to our younger generation. And eventually, if you stop passing on the values, they disappear and you have anarchy.
The Star Wars films were influenced by old Hollywood westerns. Lucas says the western was once American culture's predominant mythology.
The western pretty much survived through the 50s, and then it kind of went away, and reality took over, and reality isn't based in what things ought to be or the kinds of values that we want to pass on. It's based in reality, the way people actually react, which is usually the crummier side of life.
So with Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi, George Lucas was attempting to create a new American mythology. Lucas's goal was to resurrect traditional values in a time when society had become rootless. Star Wars may have set sci-fi standards, but Lucas says he was disappointed by the first film. It simply did not live up to his vision. The 2 sequels were less frustrating for him.
Before, I had a very, very tight schedule, very, very tight budget, you know, and as I say, I was developing things where now I had characters I sort of understood a lot better. It was much easier to write it and put it together. The technical means for me to do it was better, so it actually was more fun in a way.
Although he had more fun on the sequels, Lucas still wasn't completely satisfied with the results. So 12 years after the last film was released, he's gone back and spruced up the trilogy. Using his new THX digital enhancement facilities, he's remastered the films and re-released them in a boxed home video set. Both sound and picture have been improved. Next, in 1997, he will re-release a 20th anniversary theatrical edition of Star Wars. That version will have improved special effects and footage which he wasn't able to include before.
And I figured I just wanted to go through, fix all the things that I'd always wanted to fix, you know, that I'd never gotten around to. There's animals in there that are big rubber things that don't move, and I wanted them to actually move. And and the scene with Jabba the Hutt and some of the spaceships in the end battle that the shots weren't as good as I'd hoped they would be. So it's a way of sort of finishing everything off and having it be more or less what I wanted it to be in the first place.
The re-releases are setting the stage for the all-new Star Wars trilogy that Lucas is currently writing. With the first installment due out in 1997 or 98, the films will chronicle events prior to the first trilogy. Lucas has waited so long to do the pictures because he felt he needed to get the filmmaking technology up to the point where he wouldn't be as frustrated as before. Armed with his high-tech arsenal, Lucas fully expects his next trilogy to be truly out of this world.
Well,
So how many times have you remortgaged this house?
only three.
Three?
Only three, but that was to add 2 levels, too.
Yeah. This is the guy. This is the collector. This is his house. Stephen Sansweet is right here. What do you suppose is the most valuable piece you have in the entire house?
Well, why don't you come this way?
Walk this.
This
Oh,
was
I know
a-
where we're headed.
This was a piece I put together via an auction, and I got the costume part of Darth Vader and the helmet from a different source and some of the other pieces from a third source. But they're all from Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah.
And it is
That is
an
so
authentic
cool.
costume used in the making of the movie.
How much you pay for that?
I really don't want to
No.
remember,
Yeah.
but I can tell you that someone else, George Lucas, put up for auction the helmet and the face mask.
Yeah.
About 3 years ago, it went for $20,000.
Hello. Well, what's the tackiest thing you got? in this
Tacky?
place?
Well, that's
Yeah.
also Darth, I think. How about, direct from Tijuana, a black velvet painting of Darth Vader?
That would be hideous. It looks, Darth looks like a kitten there.
It wasn't quite as bad as the hair painting of Darth Vader.
Let's see. Most prized possession. How about that?
I've got a couple this way.
Let me guess. The chest pieces, right?
Yes, the chess pieces, indeed.
Wow. Let me get your gloves,
Yeah, hold
Doctor.
my,
Thank you.
hold my claws here.
All right.
These are 2 of the chess pieces from that famous game aboard the Millennium Falcon when Chewbacca was not too happy that R2-D2 was winning.
Yeah.
And C-3PO said, "Let the Wookiee win."
Well, what are they made out of?
These, I think, are paper mache. This one is a solid one, and this is actually a stop-motion one. It just has little metal, almost paperclip-like joints, so
Yeah.
it could move frame by frame.
How about this guy? Actually from the movie?
This is actually a helmet that Anthony Daniels wore
Yeah.
in Empire Strikes Back, and you got to believe the guy has the smallest
Wow.
neck in the world.
Yeah, I've interviewed him. He is a slight guy,
Yeah,
but
he is.
man, claustrophobia.
Pretty amazing. I barely get that on my hand,
Eek.
I think. Over
Pencil neck, it comes to mind, right?
Pencil neck?
Yeah.
Yes.
I won't say geek.
Over here, this is a speeder bike scout helmet. I think this is
Oh.
one of the guys who actually crashed into the tree.
Into the tree,
because
yeah.
he's, it's broken.
You see? It's cracked right there.
Somebody tries to take it from me. I
Eek.
get Han Solo's pistol.
Really from the movie?
This is a prop one that when they didn't have to do close-ups, this is made out of a very light resin, so it's a lot less heavy than the metal
Yeah.
gun that they use for
It's
close-ups.
actually very, very light. This is cool. We're going to look around some more, but make sure you watch. If you don't keep watching,
Oh, no!
our Star Wars spree continues when we experience Star Wars merchandise mania and find out why Star Wars has become such an obsession for Stephen Sansweet. About 7 months ago, a longtime Star Wars collector named Lance Worth opened a store called Star Force Collectibles in El Cajon, California. Its claim to fame?
As for an all Star Wars store, this is the only one in the world that I am aware of. People have said, well, you can't claim that because we have a store in our area with a lot of Star Wars. But I am all Star Wars. It's a 1,200 square foot all Star Wars store. There are over 5,000 different things in the store, and I'm getting new product almost every day.
The word on Star Force Collectibles traveled fast through the global Star Wars community.
Well, I had people flying in from Japan and Belgium and France and Germany and faraway places like Utah and Iowa. And people, just coming to see the store.
But it was hard to rival the enthusiasm of local fans.
Let's see, without getting too crude, got pretty excited. I was pretty excited. I'd say that was like Like dying, gone to heaven, gone to Star Wars heaven.
Oh my goodness. That was the expression, oh my goodness. Really? Really? A Star Wars store? And another friend of mine, we rushed down here and we looked around and we thought it was the greatest thing.
Star Wars merchandise was released in every way, shape, and form as the trilogy rode a tide of unprecedented theatrical success. And with the advent of home video, the films were introduced to a whole new generation of viewers. But Worth says interest waned in the late 80s until Lucasfilm made a concerted effort to get Star Wars back in the public eye.
Star Wars had died. It died in about 87. That's when all the stuff was clearance, and then it gained popularity again in 91 or 92. They had a comic book series, a novel, the Nintendo game, and CBS Fox got the videos down to less than 20 bucks. All of that happened within a 3 or 4 month period. And sooner or later, somebody, a new generation, is going to pick it up, and then the older kids are going to see it too, and they're going to go, wow, I used to play with that. And it just sparked a whole new interest that is just insane.
Lance Worth found an ideal mate in Gina Worth, his wife, partner, and fellow Star Wars worshiper. The pair were married a week before the store's grand opening, but the honeymoon has been put on hold for a while.
Oh God, the first time I saw his apartment, he had a studio apartment with no walls. It was just one bedroom. He had wall-to-wall Star Wars. He had it like a store. He had display cases. The only piece of furniture was a bed. He had 7 cats. So you can imagine the smell. But it was just incredible, and it just brought me all the way back to my childhood.
Lance Worth quit collecting a year and a half ago. Other than 2 Star Wars t-shirts his grandmother bought him nearly 20 years ago, he put his entire collection up for sale. Well, ardent Star Wars collector Stephen Sansweet was given first dibs and still remains in close contact with Worth.
I sell him everything at cost because I feel sorry for him, because he has to get everything.
Well, it's true. I'm a completist. That means everything that's out there, I want one of.
May the Force be with you.
Stephen Sansweet has been called a master collector of Star Wars memorabilia. He is the proud owner of the largest and most complete collection outside of the Lucasfilm archives. By day, he is the Los Angeles bureau chief of the Wall Street Journal. But his true passion is Star Wars. His large picture-filled book, Star Wars From Concept to Screen to Collectible, offers a comprehensive look at the history of Star Wars merchandising. Would you consider it an insult or a compliment if I said, hey, you are obsessed with Star Wars?
I am obsessed with Star Wars. I have been since I first saw the movie in 1977, so I don't consider it an insult. I consider it reality.
So where does this obsession come from?
Back in the 50s anyway, you didn't buy toys as a teenager. It just was very uncool. Well, you know, in my 30s then, and I started buying toys again, I started buying space toys and robots. And then Star Wars came out and blew me away, and I started buying Star Wars toys as part of that, and it just never stopped.
Where is the very first piece you ever
The
collected?
very first Star Wars piece is probably right around here. It was a piece of jewelry and some patches. And so
That's
these
where
things
this-
were available in the stores. These were one of the first things available.
There are a lot of movies out there, especially a lot of sci-fi movies, and you can collect from them. Why Star Wars?
First of all, Star Wars was really the first licensed movie product to make it big time. Before that, the licensing business was about $6 billion a year, and within 10 years after Star Wars, it had gone up to about $66 billion.
How have you been able to forge such a close and healthy relationship with Lucasfilm?
Well, I heard that they were interested in doing a price guide, and I thought, anybody should do that. It should be me. And I just called up there cold, talked to the lady who had just started the publishing division, Lucy Wilson, and she said, well, you know, she took my call, and she said, send me some writing samples and send me your ideas, and one thing led to another. The book developed to a book that became Star Wars From Concept to Screen to Collectible, which was how Star Wars went from an idea in George Lucas's head to the screen and then to merchandise. That book is now in its 6th printing. There are over 50,000 copies in print.
Have you ever met George Lucas?
Sure.
So what's he like?
He's, you know, he's just your ordinary multimillionaire creative genius.
Tell me about the book you're working on now.
Right now, I'm putting together the official Star Wars encyclopedia for release at Christmas of 1997. and this will be an A to Z of the fantasy world of Star Wars and a much smaller A to Z on the real world of Star Wars. Some of the people behind the scenes, the people who put it together, locations, basically the films themselves.
So where does the Wall Street Journal fit in here?
It pays the bills.
Couldn't you make this Star Wars collection a full-time job? I mean, forget Wall Street.
Well, the force tugs at me.
Then your hobby would be all business.
I don't think so. If it were ever to become a full-time job, I don't think it would be frustrating. I don't think it would take the fun away from it.
The Star Wars Cantina creatures have found a new hangout, Bob's Basement, after this mesmerizing melange. Well, of course. Well, of course Stephen has Cantina creatures.
Of course.
How many do you have?
2 or 3.
Yeah. I know somebody who else has a collection.
Who's
a
that?
fine little collection of Cantina creatures. Bob Burns, you know him?
Oh, yeah.
You ever been
Bob.
to his basement, though?
Yes.
He let you down there, too?
Well, occasionally.
Oh, well, I just went the other day.
And now, once again, it's time to go to Bob's Basement to visit one of the world's biggest collectors of science fiction memorabilia and the guy who really knows his way around a dumpster, Bob.
Hey, you know, I've got a cantina down here as well as
Really?
anything else. Yeah.
What do you say this time we just go down in your basement and get soused? Let's just do
Good
some
idea. I've
drinking.
got some
What do you-
great partners down
All
here.
right. This is the cantina you were talking about.
Right.
The one from Star Wars.
That's right.
Now,
That's
really,
it.
are all these heads from that Star Wars cantina?
Yes, they are. Every one.
Okay.
Yep.
Even this horny little devil here?
The little horny devil right there was originally made by Rick Baker for a Halloween show that I did years ago, based on The Exorcist type thing, and then he used it also in the cantina sequence. He needed every mask and every head he could
Right.
get, you know.
How many creatures were in that cantina? you
Oh,
think?
I don't know. 35, 40,
Wow.
at least probably. Now, Doug Beswick made this guy. Now, he is one of the band members. That guy.
Now, he's kind of your stereotypical alien guy, isn't
Yeah, he's your
communion
bughead,
kinda.
bughead alien, yeah, basically. But he made about 4 of these, I think, for the film. And
that
these are
rubber?
all latex rubber.
Latex,
yes,
yeah.
they are. Uh-huh.
So, Bob, do you ever put these on late at night, you know, scare your wife?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've done that a
Okay.
couple of times.
What about this guy? Perfect flat head
yeah.
for beer and stuff like that in
Anything
a
you want.
cantina?
It's called T-head is what he's called. This is the first guy you see in the cantina sequence. You see his head suddenly come up
Oh,
in
yeah.
the frame, and he's looking around and all that stuff. This is made out of foam rubber. This is actually a hand puppet. A fella had this on his hand. That's why they call it a hand puppet.
I'll be darned. Well,
Makes
there you
sense,
go.
yeah,
That certainly
okay.
does. A little veiny.
Yeah, he is a little bit. Well, you know, he's had a hard time. He shouldn't be on
Been
Earth.
drinking too much in
Yeah,
the cantina.
that happens to you too if you drink
Oh, yeah.
that much. You know,
My
But
nose is
you
that
can
way
see
already.
this, yes. This guy, we just call him Four Eyes because he's sort of a nice little teeny guy. He has this cooked sausage in here.
Jimmy Ding Link
I think it
sausage
is.
there.
Yes. And he just kind of hangs around a lot. He doesn't do a whole lot, but he's kind of a sweet little
Now,
guy.
this actually has 4 eyes, not 2 that popped out.
No, these are actually 4 eyes. He does have 4 eyes, yeah. And he's just a fuzzy little devil. A guy actually wore him. This is a costume that a person put on, and it's very, very hot. And yeah, I mean, you don't want to wear it too long.
Would you ever part with any of these?
No. Oh,
No way.
No way.
Who could have ever imagined that some of those strange cantina creatures from Star Wars would have ended up as regulars in Bob's basement? How to fill the void while you're waiting for the next Star Wars films? Our Buzz Best Bets. Next. It's been 12 years since the third Star Wars film hit theaters, but the Force is still with us. We'll show you several ways to fill the void while waiting the second Star Wars trilogy on this week's Buzz Best Bets.
Disengage from space dock.
LucasArts is at it again. George Lucas's interactive game division has created a sequel to their mega-selling CD-ROM game, Rebel Assault. Rebel Assault 2, The Hidden Empire, intercuts computer-generated imagery with live-action footage. In fact, this is the first live-action Star Wars footage that's been shot since the original films. And for fans who'd like to feast their eyes on some fabulous Star Wars literature, get ready for an onslaught. Many of today's top-selling science fiction authors are getting in on the action and taking their imaginative minds deep into the Star Wars universe. Engaging tales based on colorful Star Wars characters are being published every 6 months or so. And those requiring a refresher course in the trilogy's massive cast of characters can check out Star Wars: The Essential Guide to Characters by Andy Mangels. The book profiles the most memorable inhabitants of the Star Wars universe, from Yoda to Jabba the Hutt to Darth Vader. Hot off the presses is the Illustrated Star Wars Universe, a picture and text-filled treat by Ralph McQuarrie and Kevin J. Anderson. McQuarrie served as the main concept artist for all 3 films, and this is the first book to showcase his work. Finally, there's Shane Johnson's new Star Wars Technical Journal. This comprehensive guide, filled with production designs and blueprints, offers an in-depth look at the history and hardware of Star Wars. Those are this week's Buzz Best Bets. Well, did you go wild when you found this?
Oh, this is great. I have so much fun playing this thing.
How many pieces do you have in the whole house, do you think?
Tens of thousands.
Yeah.
I mean, if you count everything.
You are such a kid.
Yeah, I love it. It keeps me a kid, I'll tell you.
I mean, you're not an old guy, certainly, but have you ever thought about, where all this stuff's going to go when you go off to that other galaxy somewhere?
Well, I think I'd like everybody to have a piece of it, so maybe go up at auction, or who knows.
Yeah. Now,
no rush.
New trilogy coming out. Do you feel the pressure?
Yeah.
All that memorabilia.
A lot of pressure.
3 more movies.
I've got to have it all.
Do you think you will start collecting that?
Oh, sure.
Oh, man. You're
Is there any doubt?
Hey, my turn here, okay?
Okay.
Actually, let's go to something a little more tough, more manly.
Okay.
Come on. We'll see you next week, everybody. Ariana.
Classic coming attractions, the most sci-fi trailers in the universe. Saturday Night Live veteran Tom Davis and special guest Dan Aykroyd team up for the premiere of Trailer Park. Tomorrow at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, Alien Invasion Saturday. Now stay tuned for Mysteries, Magic, and Miracles next on the Sci-Fi Channel.